General Tomahawk is back with another episode of How I Became General Tomahawk. And today the topic is Robert Cialdini and the triggers, the psychological triggers of influence. This will be important to you if you're trying to sell a course or you're trying to sell anything online or whether you're trying to promote your business in any kind of way at all. And there's a great book, Robert Cialdini's Influence, the psychology of what's it called? Influence, the psychology of persuasion, something along those lines. And it's a great book because Cialdini is an academic psychologist. He's way deep in the study and the psychology behind why people do the things they do and how influence really works. And this is of great interest to those of us that are actually in the field, practitioners, what Cialdini calls practitioners of influence and the psychology of influence. So you might think that the academic world and the online marketing world have nothing in common, but Cialdini actually ties the ideas that practitioners use in a theoretical way, which is why you really should do yourself a favor and take a look at his book. It's a great book. I haven't read it myself, but I've kind of skimmed through, and it's quite powerful. Some of the sections I've browsed through are crazy good. I plan to read it someday. So let's look at some of these triggers of persuasion, which are really great. So the first trigger, and this is in no particular order, but the first trigger is authority. We are more likely to be persuaded when there is an authority. And I'm sure you can think of a lot of examples that meet this. But just look at this one, a very big one. the the Iraq War, right? Uh, when the U.S. went into Iraq, what happened was Colin Powell stood up and he said the the Iraqi regime has got weapons of mass destruction, and he was a great, I think, three-star general, top of the top authority. So everybody naturally said, "Well, we gotta do this. We gotta do whatever he's saying." That's how easy it is to persuade people, and that's a famous example. It later turned out that Powell was wrong, and there was no weapons of mass destruction. But just think, if you got the authority, it's easy to persuade people. So Cialdini Cialdini really paints this one importantly and correctly, which is why you gotta read his book to really understand how these things work at a deep level. And another psychological trigger of persuasion is reciprocity, right? It's like if you walk onto a bus and a stranger asks you to hold this drink, you're gonna be like who does he think? He thinks I'm here to hold this drink. But suppose the stranger gives up his seat for you and lets you sit, and he scoots over into the next seat, and you sit. And then a second later he says, "Oh, wait, I gotta find something in my bag. Can you hold my drink for a second?" You're gonna hold this drink without thinking twice about it. So that's the power of reciprocity. Is when people do something for us, it's only natural for us to want to do something for them as well. And this is a powerful, I'm sure you can find all kinds of examples, like when stores give out free gifts, and because of that you're in a happy mood when you go into the store. Maybe you buy something a little bit more than you intended in the first place. Another great psychological trigger of persuasion is social proof. When something is cool, then everybody wants to be cool. You can see this in the world of hip hop music. When an artist has been featured on a few songs by some of the big stars, let's say an artist has collaborated with Rick Ross and he's collaborated with Kanye West, then all of a sudden everybody else, so then he goes on to do like 20 collabs because everybody just, before he did those collabs, nobody else was lining up to want to do a collab. But just because now he's done, a song with Rick Ross and Kanye West, and now everybody feels that they have to do a song with this guy. So that's how easy it is to persuade people when you've got social proof. So that's another big psychological trigger. Um, and so if you check these psychological triggers, you have to use them in your sales copy. Obviously, use them on your website, use them in your marketing funnels. And to close it out, let me just give you one final psychological trigger. There's more psychological triggers that Cialdini talks about, but this one is scarcity. So when something is scarce, right? When there's limited quantities of it, it's a little bit easier for us to make a decision. It's like when the store or when a business says, "Hey, we only got limited editions of this. We only got this is a limited edition thing." Then people that might be on the fence feel like, "Oh, if we don't get this, then it's over. We can't get it, right?" And you see this with luxury car manufacturers, like Porsche will say, "Oh, this is a limited edition, 1959." This and that, yeah, and then millionaires are lining up to buy it because it's limited edition. Maybe there's only like 50 of them. If there weren't 50, if there was a whole lot of them, maybe they would only sell a few that year. But because they've limited the quantity to 50, they are gonna sell more than they would if the thing wasn't scarce. And you also see this actually with concert tickets, right? Like you wanna go to artists make their tickets available, like maybe before the show, and they say there's a strict limit, one ticket per person, and then people are lining up and doing all kinds of crazy things to get their hands on these tickets. Why? Because of scarcity. So when something is scarce, it's a lot easier to sell it because people are in a sold state naturally, because they know, like, if they miss it, if they delay, they might miss it and they might never get it. So with that, General Tomahawk, on how I became General Tomahawk.